All right, so good evening, my favorite people. Today is Thursday. It's 9 p.m. I mean, I don't need to remind you. It's just the fact that we are in the men's lounge. Just bear in mind that when the time check is 9 p.m. Thursday evening, it's time for the men's lounge. Last week we started a discussion on starting a business and making it successful with your three favorite people. I don't know whether they are the same people I'm going to have today, but I'll tell you when I come back. And then also, let me quickly remind you that this show is proudly supported by Casa Preco Alomo Bitters. You haven't seen me sipping yet, but I'll do it before I go for the break. And then I also need to remind you that ETV is at 10. And also, if you have advertising, everything that you want to bring here, just come. And you're going to have awesome discounts that you won't forget. And there's also a promo that's going to happen soon. I'll give you more information when I'm back after my very first break. Please stay tuned and thank you for being part of my evening. Come back. The lounge is getting hot already. And like I did say earlier, we are continuing something we started last week. And so what do you expect? I have Stephen, I have Emmanuel, and I still have
Anthony.
I'll mind you.
From Miami.
I have Anthony in the studio. He has too many watches lately, so but I mean, really, these are the people I have to continue the discussion we started last week. Last week, we started with building a successful business. We spoke about what a successful business is, some of the skill that you might need to be successful, and some of the challenges. And we spoke about one thing I do remember really has to do with the taxation, and obviously not our fault, but it's the kind of system that we have in our country. As to whether it's good or bad to us, well, we are speaking to it already. It was quite obvious that the tax system that we have, it's not really helping. As young people trying to make it, when it's that tough for us, what do? It makes us succumb, which is not right. But guys, what can I say? Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, bro.
Welcome, Anthony.
Yep.
Welcome, Emmanuel.
Yes, bro.
Welcome, Stephen. Charlie, how was the week, Stephen?
Charlie, it was good.
When the banker said it was good, when the former banker told it was good, it really was. Iba, how was it?
Actually,
More cars to work
Can't
on.
complain, eh?
can't complain.
Yeah.
Car's working.
And see this man. Are you wearing a different watch?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's normal.
This guy there, I see a chill before catch him, put on corner and beat away.
I beg.
Anyway, guys, so I think last week before we left, we were discussing some of the challenges that you have faced, and one that I remember so well has to do with the taxation. I remember Stephen promised that when he comes back, he was going to tell us a little bit more into why he thinks the tax system isn't really helping, especially helping young business people who want to come up and be successful. Stephen, what are some of the other things that we need to know about this tax that is really a problem?
Now, first of all, I would want to say a good evening to your viewers, and to also say that taxation in this country is an issue, and it's an issue because it's not customer friendly. Largely, you would expect that there's a lot of education for the taxpayer to understand what he's paying for. Because today, if you register a business, and for instance, you get all your company registration documents, the next thing you need to do is to register for your tax and get your VAT certificate. Now, whether you are working or not, they will give you a pre-assessment, and oftentimes it's about 4,000 cedis. And that's how much you have to pay. You know, of course, they will spread it for you.
That's a lot of money.
Over the 4 quarters in a year.
Yeah, but that's a lot of money.
So, first quarter, even before you start work, you need to cough up that to qualify for your basic tax, and then your VAT certificate. For me, I think that there's a way we may have to look at that, because you haven't worked. How do you start paying tax? And then the argument is that, if at the end of the year you don't make that much and you report, or your assessment, your final tax, when you file nil, then that 1,000 or 4,000 will be refunded to you. But I'm saying that we are even struggling to raise capital to start business. So if I've been issue, I'm paying these monies, when indeed getting an office space and paying salaries and getting started hasn't even, come in. So I think that is something we may have to look at, that maybe our tax authorities would be a bit more friendly to startups, explain to them, and then maybe follow their business first 3 months, see how they're going. 6 months, maybe, you can begin to say, okay, can we go through your assessment? Can we establish whether you've made profit or not? And then can you start paying something, to the tax authorities? I think that there has to be some engagement with startups for taxation purposes, because a lot of people, that's why people would rather evade, or, they would not even, and there are a lot of people who are doing that lately. They won't go for anything, and because they know their clients will not insist on these things, except for when you're going for government contracts or government businesses. So a lot of people, I'm sure, don't have it. But when we make it friendly and we educate them that you need to have it, because then tomorrow nobody will come after you. And trust me, tax is what we used to build our country.
Yeah.
So if all of us are not paying for taxes, then we don't have the right to demand for all those roads and infrastructure and all that we demand of our government. So yes, everybody should pay tax, but we should make it easy for us to pay. People should be made to know why they are paying the taxes, because already a lot of senior people who have been in business for so many years complain that they've been paying taxes for so many years. They don't see what government is using the money for. So rather, instead of making it look like we have a hostile relationship as a business and the tax authority, let's be more friendly. Let us understand, that okay, when you pay your taxes, like I said the other time, if we are able to even have proper assessment of the tax collections in a particular area, government can begin to give some concentration on maybe the roads in that area, the drains in that area, give it some upliftment. So people are encouraged. So they see that these are the fruits of my taxes, but we don't feel that. And I'm sure that is the next level GRA should be graduating us to, that we're going to have, so every district should be able to tell how much tax they generate. And then that will determine how much budget is allocated to you. That way people are going to set up, the various authorities in these areas would get to work, but when we don't have that kind of commensurate development to our tax, contribution, people are demoralized, and they will not be.
Well, and so you think in that regard, I mean, there should be that conversation.
That should be a conversation
to make the tax system friendly for startups. Well, I think it's one of the things we can take into key consideration. But you see, again, one of the things that bothers me right now is the fact that I feel that the reason why, or some of these challenges, may not necessarily be generic challenges that are there. How about the people, mismanaging whatever that they start up? You don't think some of these could be challenging to having a successful business?
Yeah, mismanaging the little income you gain as a startup entrepreneur also goes a long way to affect your business. So for instance, when you want to look at what society is expecting out of you or is pushing you to do, so you start making some money, and then you want to get yourself a lot of luxuries around you. You want to get that car, you want to get that property, you want to get that. Forgetting about the business requires sustainability. And so you need to put a lot of money into investment to be able to sustain the business. So you need to critically look at what are some of the assets you want to buy in support of your business. Instead of just buying things to please people, to please society, you want to really push that money into stabilizing your operations. And so financial management is critical, in business sustainability. So for instance, I made a mess of my business when I started. I was over exuberant, and so I started opening branches all over. Okay, sometimes we think opening branches means success or progress or growth in business, but sometimes it must be strategic. You can open several businesses, but your profitability might not commensurate the expansion. Okay, so I opened several branches and I paid dearly for that. So we need to know how to financially manage our resources to be able to sustain our businesses to grow. Yeah.
And I'm sure you tag that as one of the common mistakes that perhaps, if not more,
Yeah.
a few, startups get into.
Exactly.
How do we avoid some of these mistakes?
One thing regarding what he's saying, I think people just happen to lose focus, okay? To me, there's a huge difference in making money or trying to hoard money and building a brand. Sometimes from the beginning of your business, you have to differentiate what you are after. For me, my aim was to build a brand, not to directly make money, okay? So people forget to remind themselves like what the focus is. Now, what I mean is that when I started selling watches, okay, there were a lot of times that I would meet a client who would ask me, oh, apart from watches, what else do you sell? Look, I knew the supplies of perfumes and shoes and all these things. And if I was chasing money, I would have been selling all of them because I knew where to get them from. But my aim was not to chase money, but to build a brand. And my brand was just directed at watches, to be an expert in watches and globalize it. So the more the temptation kept coming, Charlie, can you sell perfume? Can I get a belt? I would give you the number of my friends who sells perfumes, and I would not sell it. Even though, this is the mistake people do. They will chase every bit of money and lose their focus. But if you have that composure to reject some money for the sake of your brand and your focus, it's very hard to do, but I was able to do it. I needed money. Somebody was ready with cash to buy a perfume. I would give you the number of my friend who sells perfumes. Go and get it there. That's one thing that business people should always remember. From the beginning, be ready to put all your money back into the business, into yourself. I was selling watches, it was funny when I'm going to car parks to sell watches. That's when I wear the best of my suits and my shoes. And you think I'm going for some occasion, I invested more into what I wear, how I look, just to sell watches at car parks, to hawk watches in a professional manner. So instead of trying to hoard money, put the money back, invest in yourself, go for trainings, try to improve your skills. Put all the money away, put them into the business, because the benefits will come not immediately, but later, some years to come. That is very hard for people to do. When they get the money, they can't give it out. They want to hoard it. But the more you try to hoard the money, you end up losing it all. Yeah.
In that regard, what are some of the common mistakes that a lot of young, growing entrepreneurs?
Maybe trying to look rich.
Yeah. like Cyril already said, people would want to live a certain life simply because he thinks he's a CEO or he's originated a business. But one thing I know is that every business has a life cycle. That you need to grow organically. That there are certain cost elements that you don't have to increase simply because you have a business that has probably started. One, people just want to relocate their offices because they think they have a business running, so they can get a big office. That immediately brings you additional cost because you may have to pay more.
It might be more expensive.
That's one. Two, you probably are managing with some small saloon. Now you want a four-wheel. The question I ask people is that, what is the contribution of the four-wheel
To the business.
to the business sustainability? What I tell people is that what is more important is not the fact that you have a business that has a name, but what is the cash flow potential of the business? Because what sustains businesses is not the fact that you have a big office or because you drive a big car. What sustains businesses is reliable, consistent cash flow. That you know that month on month, per the systems you put in place, per your client engagement, per the very, service that you give, you are guaranteed a certain cash flow, say 100,000 every month. Once that is guaranteed, the next thing is that how do I make my company solvent? You know, because if the company can can be able to absorb shocks, you know, because business is always full of shocks. And I can share with you some of the personal experience I've had.
Go ahead.
Where you sign a big contract, you just take off 2 months into the time. The one who employed you, who gave you that contract, is folding up because they took a bad decision. You become a casualty. For instance, all these savings and loans and banks that were working with some printers, some suppliers, stationery.
They may have placed orders,
you know,
for something.
Because you thought that, oh, you have this contract and it is monthly, you know, so you think that you can start spending, you know, and then that's when you want to get all those extravagant, you know, acquisitions. What happens is that if any of those cash flow sources is blocked or becomes weak, you also would have to go down. That's why I said to you the other time that you have to avoid concentration risk. What you want to do is to build a mix of clientele base where you are sure that when there are shocks, at least if this one goes down, you still have a good mix of clients to hold you up. And that you are keeping your cost at a certain minimum that the company can sustain. Of course, I'm not saying that if you're making money, don't look good, don't upgrade. But before you do that, make sure that you've done your calculations and the amount of money or the amount of investment that is going into all these fixed assets that do not directly lead to revenue generation is not too high. And that your company can still survive after you've made these investments.
I get that. Guys, if you're just joining us, we are in the Men's Lounge. And I mean, obviously, if you want to be part of this, please join us on all our social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's all at ETV Ghana. Feel free also and send us your messages on WhatsApp, and the number is 020-2222-054. Later, before the show ends, I'll share with you the phone line so that you can also call in and share with us some of the ethics of business that can lead us to a very successful, being a very successful entrepreneur. Now, I know very well that businesses grow to some level and then sometimes it hits a rough path, like he was trying to give us a scenario. Now, when you get to such situations and you begin to get that feeling that, look, this is likely to fail, what should you do, or what do you do?
Yeah, you need to critically do a SWOT analysis. Look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the threats that are coming up. What are the functions and operations that are bringing you additional cost or that are resulted to
That failure.
That is emanating. So, for instance, if you have several branches, you want to reduce them. Okay, so you can concentrate resources into building a solid brand. So like he was saying, you know, your brand is what will sell you and sustain your business. Because once that brand, usually the brand is not just the name. Brand is a constituent of all that makes the business and you. Your attributes, your values, your product, your credibility state. So once that name is mentioned, these are the constituents. So if you invest in building that brand, when you face such challenges, it sustains you, it keeps you. So sometimes people buy products based on the brand. The product might not even be quality, but because you are able to build a solid brand, it's the brand they buy, but not the product. You know, so you want to invest into that. So you face those challenges. Concentrate and focus, build that solid brand, rather than wanting to still hold on to the several outlets that are causing you so much harm. You know, so people want to be satisfied with your services. They want to pay for satisfaction. And so you want to give them that quality. And so those are some of the things you want to look at.
Excuse me. Sorry. I'm sure I need a shot of Alomo to kill it. Anyway, I see. So then, when you start getting that feeling, you then have to go back, start looking out for what may have triggered or possibly caused all the, imminent failures that you probably may have or would start envisaging. You start looking at what could send you there, and then you start working at it. Anything else to do? Or
one other thing is that, you know, if you're a businessman, you must also be sensitive to economic changes. You know, before now, I'm sure people were saying that the economy is hard, but I'm sure now people are saying it's even harder. And that's because even at the time when you had all these banks operating and people having access to all sorts of financial assistance and all these service providers were all in business, one thing you're sure is that there was some amount of spending. People would spend because they actually make money, or there's some business they are doing that brings them money. Now, all these banks were merged into one. Savings and loans were closed down, microfinance were closed down. So the workers in all of these companies who hitherto were generating some revenue do no longer have that purchasing power. So their consumption certainly is going to go down. So anybody doing business must always be mindful that when there are changes in the economy, you may want to make adjustments, you know, in a manner such that you do not lose out on your investment when there's a downward economic turn. You know, so that's one of the things. You must be abreast with what is happening. You should always be listening to what is happening. You should be reading. Make sure you are within the system. You are following what the system is doing. Because one policy could kill your business. One change in policy can kill your business. You know, especially when you are probably operating in a very heavily regulated environment. You know, so clearly, until 2 years ago, when banks were being told to recapitalize or to increase capitalization from a 60 million cedis to $100 million, you know, I mean, you need to be prepared for some of these shocks. Because some banks could not meet the requirements, what happened?
you had to close.
They had to merge with other banks just so they could meet, you know, the requirements. So as a company, you must always be listening to, especially if you're regulated, what is the regulator's expectation? Where is the economy going? How do I prepare myself to be relevant in that future economy? You know, it's very important.
Well, and so once you're able to identify that this is where it's coming from, you probably should also know where to tackle it from.
Of course. Yeah.
That's quite right.
Yeah.
You know, last week there was a question that came from, our social media page that I couldn't bring that in before we left, but it had to do with the capital bit of trying to start, you know, a business. And so the question was, if you're starting the business solo, is it advisable to try look for an investor? You know, to start, so like starting the business on another person's capital,
let me
like a loan, you know, sort of thing. Is it advisable?
Let me take this one. I have tried, and I think I'm evidence to starting small. I believe in starting small so much. Most of the times, people have a good business idea. You know, you put together a proposal, and the passion that you have for the business. You wish to find one big man who has that passion too, or understand your passion and invest in your business. Most of the times, it does not happen.
It doesn't?
Most of the time, it will not happen. You could end up being frustrated, disappointed, making enemies, just because you are seeking this huge figure investment to blow your business up. In most cases, what would actually help your business in terms of funding, you may be looking for $100,000, but you end up actually growing your business on the 500 cedis that your friend will lend you, the 1,000 cedis that some family member can be able to lend you today or tomorrow. That's the small figures. You know, the small figures would actually help you quicker than trying hard to find some investor somewhere with big money to blow your business up. That is what I experienced. Started small. I had a business plan. I felt like I knew a lot of rich men to approach. I had countless meetings that led to nothing. And the sad part is when they can't help you, they start to avoid you, to dodge your calls. You get frustrated. But when you just understand that, you know, friend, boys can lend you some 100 cedis, 200 cedis, put those monies together. That may help you quicker than waiting for some big fund.
And so you don't think it's okay to start a business right away with,
if you can,
with bringing on investors?
if you can get it. Everybody wishes to get it. If you can get it, you are blessed. But have the mindset that if you don't, struggle with the little that you can get. If it happens, you are blessed. I mean, everybody wishes to get that. But in most cases, you wouldn't get it. So be ready to build with the little that you have.
Ivano,
Yeah.
you don't think we can rely on somebody's.
Somebody to
Sometimes you
support.
need to be smart. So you know that.
Yeah.
You can
It's
rely on
actually
somebody's
good.
support and start a
It's
business.
a variable factor here. Okay, businesses are variable. So it depends on the type and nature of business proposal or business that you have, that for which you need that support. Okay, if it is a business that require heavy capital to start, then probably you might want to look at that because the returns will be good enough to be able to meet, even if you don't have the best of percentage in the deal. But if you have a business that, like he's saying, that little money here and there put together can help you build it up, then you want to actually look at that direction. So for instance, the business I run, today it might look huge and capital intensive, but trust you me, I started cashless because I knew I couldn't have raised money from nowhere. I didn't have any collateral to approach the banks to give me a loan.
Yeah.
My family background was not that financially strong to be able to support me. Friends were nowhere to be found. Okay, so what do? I have to depend on my talent and then start building. I gave myself actually 5 years to raise my first capital to buy my first machine. And that first machine did not even start the work yet. All right, so knowing where I come from or I'm coming from, I have to do a long-term strategic plan of generic growth. Okay, growing strategically, like he was talking about, you need to grow organically. If the means is not there, plan a long-term one. You are not in competition with anybody. And so strategically, I started growing my capital gradually. And every money I raised, I reinvested it back into the business. And that kept turning around until it's almost 18 to 20 years now.
Wow.
You know, so I haven't depended on the bank. At a point when I depended on the bank, I failed heavily.
They haven't come throwing some money at you. You know, sometimes the banks come to throw some money at you that they can offer you.
You better reject some of those monies because it can be more terrible than, you know, they come smiling,
Yeah.
but when it's time for them to start taking their returns, I believe you guys don't smile with us.
Please, leave him out.
He's not talking. He's quiet on that one.
Steven, I'm sure you probably would. I don't know whether you have the same concern. I mean, do you think it is okay to start the business probably on an investor's fund, something like that?
I mean, like he rightly said, it depends on the kind of business you want to do. For me, I don't think that there's a problem with getting somebody else's money to run your business. What the problem I have is with people not having the right integrity, you know, that they are not credible. So I will not recommend that you give your money to somebody that you cannot trust. Funny enough, people come borrow your money and eventually they try to even mess you up. You know, so because of these sort of experiences, people shy away from some of these things. And even if somebody wants to put his money in your business, he makes sure he ring fence that whole investment, that his investment is protected in your business. You know, and that's a discussion we can have, you know, on a different note. What I would want to say is that if you can start small, please do. Because if the company grows from one point to a second point, you're able to learn you're able to actually learn the growth path of the business. So tomorrow when you are there and you employ people, it's easy for you to actually know what results to expect from them, what output to expect from them. But when you decide that, I want to have a big business, all of a sudden you get a big office, employ people, and then expect that your systems that you're going to put in place would work. Oftentimes it fails because you have not built that experience. Except, of course, you are resigning from a company where you were running the show, and then you are setting up a similar business, you know, and you are bringing all the systems and setups into your new business. And maybe poach 1 or 2 people from there to help you do that. But I always say that start small, gain the experience, and then grow based on your capacity. Because at times, certain growth would crush you. You know, especially somebody gives you $1 million. And then you say, oh, because of $1 million, you want to go into oil and gas. The question is that how much oil and gas do you know? You know, maybe if you, depending on your $100,000 that you have, and you want to go into oil and gas, you take your time and study the system because you don't want to lose that money. When it's $1 million, there's the temptation that, oh, it's a lot, you know. Even if I lose this, I could still make it back. And oftentimes, you don't make it back. Oftentimes, you don't make it back. So start small, build the experience through, you know, the small. Because when you lose small, you can actually console yourself. To lose big.
I have a terrible experience with that. But anyway, so I mean, it's obvious everybody's saying that it will be good that you start small and grow it. It probably will help you learn the business curve and trying to be successful, I suppose. Well, I'm going to take my next break, and then when we are back. But before I go, I have something coming from Riz in Takoradi. So Riz says, I'm glad you guys are back. Regarding getting an investor involved at an early stage, I vowed never to do so because there are cases whereby the investors later want to ask more than they agree to take from your business, or irrespective of the contract signed. Trying to find out a loophole, I started cashless to, just like the gentleman in the middle, that's Emmanuel, using the resources fiscally around me. So, Riz, thank you very much for your contribution. And I guess it's something that we've spoken about already. I'm going to go for this break. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly. All right, so welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's ETV Ghana. We are in the men's lounge. Let me just remind you that every Thursday we do this. We come to the lounge to discuss very pertinent issues that will help the young folks like us to grow up to become very responsible men. Also to remind you that this show is brought to you by Casa Preco Alomo Bitters. Okay, I have mine. I was hoping he hasn't drunk it, so I still have it. So before we left, I think Stephen, you were telling us about. I mean, you were on the floor before we left, and one of the things I need us to come back to, again, is trying to get an investor, because for me, you don't think sometimes it would be just fair to consult someone who probably may have been into that kind of business that you have, and also trying to involve the person as an investor into what you want to start? You don't think that can also help?
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, like I said to you, it depends on the kind of business you want to do. I have always been an advocate of people coming together to form partnerships, to do business together. But one thing I've seen is that in this country, a lot of us don't trust ourselves. So it makes partnership very difficult. I've said on Canvas platforms that one of the things that would drive businesses from startups to big, companies is when we work in partnership. That 3 people come together, put their energy, their ideas, their resources to build a business. But beyond that, as the business becomes sustainable, what you want to do is to invite other people to own a part of the business. And that's how come Nigerian businesses are doing well, because they believe in the stock market. Thankfully, in Ghana, we've also launched the alternative stock market, where you don't need to be having a certain balance sheet to list, you know, and you have these stockbrokers who actually bring in investors to invest in your business. Once you do that, you see, Ghanaians are too clingy. They want to own the business alone. But what happens when you're no longer there? You know, a lot of people think that, oh, once I'm doing well, I'm going to hand over or bequeath my business to my children. But oftentimes, these children actually are not interested in what you're doing. So just when you leave or you become unable to run the business, it begins to fold up. You know, but if you listed on the stock exchange and got a lot of people to invest, and the business is no longer being run by just you, but by, you know, competent people, because you need to file your returns to stock market and you must be showing great profitability and all of that. What happens is that the company is able to live beyond you. You know, so what most of these Nigerians will do is that he owns 100% from the start. He builds it to a point, sells off 60% to, you know, the public, keeps the 40 and still makes himself the board chairman, because he will still may have majority share. You understand? And then the others, you bring in a lot of other, you know, people.
That's
so
obvious that he doesn't offload the 60 to one person.
Yeah, of course.
It's about 3 or 4 people.
No. Once you list on the stock exchange, you get a lot of people buying. You know, so what happens is you get the business being run professionally.
Yeah.
Because you need to actually report, you know, every quarter, and then you also want your share price to go up. So you want to put strong figures to attract a lot of investors. What happens is that the company is able to, like Fanmok, is lived for so many years. Maybe we don't even know who the founder was when he died, but the company has lived beyond that.
True.
You talk of Nestle, talk of Bolloré. So the question is, why can't Ghanaian businesses live beyond the founders? It's because we are clean. We want to be the sole owners. You understand? But the world has moved. You know, let other people have a share in your business. You know, and then let the business grow, survive, so that you can give the shares to your child when you are no longer there. Your child doesn't have to work in the company. No. It will still be run well.
When you even offload about 60% to even a single person, what you want to even look at the returns. If your returns becomes higher than when you were managing it alone, you still will be making good money. You get it. So it is just like this. Someone once said that having a pound of an elephant meat as against having 1 full fowl. Which one would you go for?
That's deep, eh?
The issue of investment too, eh? The issue of investment. Most of the times we are only focusing on cash being investment. That is a big mistake that people do. People could invest in your business in different ways, not just cash. You know, there are a couple of times I sit in a gathering and then we take a picture. Somebody will be like, oh, but these guys are not wearing your watch. They are not supporting your... You don't know the counsel I left there with, what they invested into me, not by buying a watch from me. People could give you connections here, there. That is worth way more than any amount they would have given you. So let's broaden our perspective when it comes to investment. Like new businesses should not only focus on asking for money. One thing that I do, I was sharing with my friends here, that when I know successful people, I try to get close to them and I don't ask them for money. I only create a relationship where they open their doors to me to come for counsel. And this has helped me. A lot of times I leave their office. When I'm heading home, I'll just be laughing on the way that, hey, wow, these guys are so intelligent. I was feeling like I was finding pieces of the puzzle just by talking to them. And they entertained me because I don't come to them asking them for money. These successful people, most of the times they have people bombarding them left and right with cash, you know. So when you are different, they embrace you. So let's open our minds. It's not just about asking for money, investment, money. No, people could direct you in ways that money would not be able to.
Yeah, just to add on to that, you see, one of the things we downplay as a people is the network.
Yeah.
We need to understand that network is a key resource to entrepreneurship. That today I get my classmates from secondary school, mates from the university, calling to say, "Oh, Charlie, I need you to do this for me." It's okay, call my team, they will take their job and get it done. You know, these relationships we picked up growing up are your first network. But you also need to deliberately go out there to network. Because these people you meet, like he said, could just be, you know, an opportunity, you know, person who could just recommend you to somebody.
Yeah.
He could just make a call for you.
Yeah.
You know, or he could just say something to you that would change
Exactly.
your perspective.
Yeah.
And I think also that as young people who want to go into entrepreneurship, we should do a bit of research. We should read around the things we want to do. That is an investment into what you want to do. People discount that. But understanding the business, what you're going to do, is a very key investment that you need to make. You know, because yes, you saw somebody do, you want to do it. Like he's selling watches. You also want to sell watches. But you may not know how much time he invested in reading about the top brands in the world.
Yeah.
And how they started, the cues they picked from it,
Yeah.
you know. So you don't just see it and think that it's easy, you want to do it. Spend some time, understand the industry, understand the business, understand the market, you know, and even do your own cash flow projections, you know, and then give yourself targets and begin to follow through the targets, however small your business is. And trust me, once you have measurable targets and you are measuring yourself month on month, you will begin to see progress.
Well, so set targets for yourself, measure yourself month on month, and I'm sure the progress will start trickling in. Let me just remind you that today is a World Diabetes Day, and when it comes to diabetes, I'm sure you and I would dread that happen, or that coming to anyone, because nobody wants to be diabetic. It comes with a whole lot of issues, especially as we are men. Stephen doesn't want to have anything to do with this. That I'm very much aware. Neither does Emmanuel or maybe Tony has an idea. But anyway, I mean, it's just to remind you that today is World Diabetes Day. Stay away from all the things that will get you diabetic, because it's very important that you stay alive, keep live, and keep it for your family and yourself. Your future is very important for posterity's sake. So let's come back to the fact that we have spoken, and most of the things we have said, clientele, relationship, networking, clientele. So my question is, what are some of the effective ways we can cultivate a very good client system?
One thing you know, when I started my business, when you start a new business and the passion is new, the hunger is there, there are a lot of times that somebody would call at a very odd hour asking for a wristwatch, like 11:30 p.m. And I'm like, are you in Ghana? Like, yeah, I'm in Ghana. I'm around Circle or here or there, and I need the watch like right now. I would often go and make a delivery very late in the night and come back home. And the business starts growing. You feel like you're getting more clients. The business, you're getting a little comfortable. If you're not careful, you could slide into that comfort zone without even knowing it. You're getting a little comfortable. Then suddenly, somebody makes an order at 9 p.m. And then you say, oh, we close at 7. Then I try to pinch myself that from the beginning, I was delivering at 11.
At 10. Okay, 11.
11. Suddenly you think you are getting comfortable, so your attitude begins to change. A lot of people unconsciously slide into this comfort state. So getting a customer from the beginning, it may not be that hard as keeping the customer satisfied. The consistency. There are a couple of times that I just take my sales document and I take all the numbers and I call everybody personally to thank them for their patronage. And they get surprised sometimes that, oh, are you the guy himself, or is he one of the workers? No, I'm the guy. And they just feel honored that you take the time to call them directly and thank them. So acquiring customers is one thing, but it is more important to even keep them satisfied and retain them. Like you mentioned last week, the customer retention, that is crucial because the competition will come, the new businesses will come, and they'll come struggling for these same customers. Now, who will the customers go to? They'll go to the person they feel more connected to and more valued by. So,
Yeah. So, like he rightly said, customer satisfaction, and then your service. Now, most often we tend to sell our services to customers instead of selling satisfaction to them. So, a customer comes to your premise, to your office, to offer to purchase an item, or you have to offer a service to that customer. You must remember that the service you are offering to that customer is part of your value chain operation. It is nothing. It has nothing to do with the customer. The customer wants to meet a need, and so he's coming for satisfaction. So you need to give the customer satisfaction, and he needs to pay for that satisfaction. So, for example, at our end, if you come in and a service is rendered, and your expectation is not met for any reason, you don't pay for the service.
You don't?
You don't.
But something is going into
No,
to-
something
to the
is gone,
service.
and that is your responsibility, because the customer did not come for you to operate and go through your various
Look, Emmanuel,
operations
some
to assist.
customers are deliberately controversial.
No, when you do that, then that means you don't have value. That means that customer doesn't
Nah,
have
this
value.
one, me, I don't agree with you.
No, seriously, you see, when you practice that, I have actually practiced that across the years, and it has really helped my customer base, customer satisfaction, and that is the pride, because I want to assume that every customer has good values and has ethical values that he's moving with, and you wouldn't want to come and pretend. If you come and you do the pretense, you'll go away for the first time, but the next one you wouldn't get it. Okay, and so there was a time where a gentleman we have to let a gentleman actually drive away with about 1,800 cedis worth of job. Okay, now there was this other one. He stayed, we worked for him for almost like 4 hours, and he was right there. At the end of the day, I wasn't too satisfied with the work. He was about 90% satisfied, all right. But because I couldn't meet that peak for him, I asked that he shouldn't pay. But he was really willing to pay because he realized the effort we put in. So, but then at the end of the day, unofficially, he has to just find some tip to the boys. But officially, we did not charge
You
him.
did not charge him.
Okay, because my conscience doesn't actually
Serve you right.
serve me right when I realize I haven't really met your expectation and I'm still taking your money. Then it's like, what am I taking the money for? And it happens, actually, life situations. But if you give us the opportunity to correct the wrong, that we take the money. But if you don't, then we are not qualified for it. So I always believe in that principle that customers are to pay for their
I
satisfaction,
think it's some customers.
but
so.
not service.
I think it's some customers. Anyway, before we started, I did mention that there's a promo I'll be telling you about shortly, and here it comes. So between the 15th, or from the 15th to the 29th of November, your favorite media house, Global Media Alliance Broadcast Company. When I say that, it means YFM, ETV Ghana, Happy FM. It's one group, okay? So this is what they have for you. They are offering you up to a 90% whooping discount on your airtime. Listen carefully. From 15th November to 29th, get in here, buy as much. Remember, the more you buy, the higher discount you get. So buy so much so you can get up to about 90% discount. Place all your adverts. If I were you, all my adverts for 2020 just done, because if I get my 90% I spread it across, of course, look, Niger business, we are gone, we just get it done, and that's what it is. So I'll be going for my very last break. Let me remind you that this show is also supported by Kasapreko Alomo Bitters, and so we are thankful to them. When I'm back from the break, I'll open the phone lines, and the line is 0555-657278. When I'm back, we'll pick the calls. Please send in your messages as well, and then we'll do well to read them. Please stay tuned. You say welcome back, but anyway, welcome back. We are still in the lounge. I don't have enough time, unfortunately, but I have some 2 to 5 minutes to spare. So my phone lines are open. You can give us a call 0555-657278, and we'll speak with you. The WhatsApp number is also still there. It's 020 2222054. Guys, a very last one from all of us. So, after being entrepreneurs, I'm sure you may have over time discovered a certain particular secret that urges you on, or that makes you want to still be an entrepreneur. Just share with us briefly. One from you, one from you, one from you. Why him?
We draw inspiration from him. So.
Stevie, let's go. We have only 2 minutes.
So I think that one of the things that has kept me going, and I think I'm very excited when I see that out of my efforts, people are able to earn a livelihood, that I employ people and pay them every month. For me, it's exciting, and it keeps me going. That I want to create as much opportunities for as many people as I can, so they can also benefit from the things that I've been able to do by God's grace. Again, once you are you are somebody full of ideas and you're always thinking of creating. For me, I always want to do something, and everything I see, I try to see the business in that. So every discussion, I could see something, I'm like, okay, this is the business we can do here. So that's what keeps me going, that it's easy to identify a business model. And one thing I do with some of the things I want to do is that I find the people with the right expertise, and then I partner them, invest, and then I ask them to run. But of course, I keep, a constant interest in that business.
Nice one. Ivano.
Good. What drives me most is there's this perception in our society about people who go through technical vocational schools and who are unable to really do good jobs, or who are intelligently deficient. We perceive them as such, and works within the informal sector. That doesn't seem to match up with the corporate environment. And so I get excited that value addition to work can really leverage some of these informal sector businesses to move on, and I'm in that process and gaining grounds, and I think that's one of the greatest things I'm really excited about.
Anthony.
Yeah, so for me, what keeps me going is the fact that I have so much belief in Africa. Okay, I believe that we are so talented, we are hardworking, but people just need direction. So we have so much here that we can really work on. So it gives me satisfaction when I see young people referring to me as an inspiration because they've seen where I started from and what I am doing. It keeps me going. I want to inspire as many people as possible. And if each of us inspire one more person, then we'll be causing a revolution in Africa, and we'll be able to direct each other, work together, and then bring our full potentials out. So the inspiration part of it, moving as many people along with myself as possible, I believe that we can change the narrative and make Africa great.
Well, guys, the CEOs have spoken, and I'm also going to speak now. For me, all I have to tell you is that between 15th and 29th of November, look, I'm not kidding. Your favorite Global Media Alliance Broadcasting Company presents the Black Friday promo. Okay, book and pay your airtime slots on YFM, Happy FM, and ETV from 15th to 29th November 2019, and enjoy up to a whooping 90% discount. I repeat, 90% discount. You heard me right. It's up to 90. So remember, the more airtime you buy, the more discount you enjoy for bookings. Call 050-45-24440. Again, 050-45-24440 or 0247-416839. Make sure you call these numbers and you will get up to 90% discount. This is all that time can allow us for this evening. I'm sure we'll be back next week with another episode of the Men's Lounge. Priska Taylor, we have seen your message. We'll do well to give you some response on our social media page so that you have all the response that you want. If you joined us this evening, we are grateful for your time today, and we thank you for being part of the show. Next week we'll be back. When I'm back, I'll tell you a lot of things. Good night.